In public, you're not just a person, you're a performance. And every second you're watched, judged, and recorded, not just by people, but by opportunity, by status, by enemies hiding in plain sight. We've been taught to be honest, vulnerable, expressive. But Machiavelli knew better. He knew that public space is not a sanctuary. It's a battlefield, a chessboard where only the strategic survive. And if you move carelessly, even once, you won't just be misjudged. You'll be destroyed by the very image you created. So let's begin. There are 9 behaviors, subtle, emotional, dangerously human, that you must never reveal in public. Not because they're immoral, but because they make you predictable. They weaken your mystique. They tell people how to move around you, or worse, how to move through you. Today, you'll learn what those behaviors are and what to do instead. This isn't etiquette, it's armor. It's war strategy for the social world. And it starts with the very first poison. Never complain in public. You think complaining makes you relatable? That people will connect with your struggle? When you complain, you create a character. And it's not the one you want. You're no longer mysterious. You're no longer strong. You become a person with a need. And Machiavelli knew this. Power attracts those who endure pain privately. Weakness repels. When you speak of your frustrations, what you're really doing is bleeding in the water. And predators notice. The world begins to treat you accordingly. Not with empathy, but with diminished respect. So instead, endure in silence. Let them wonder how you haven't flinched. Let them be confused by your calm. That's presence. That's threat. Never reveal insecurity. Even if you feel doubt, even if you're uncertain, you hold the frame. Because once you admit weakness, they'll believe it. Even if it was never true to begin with. Say, I'm not confident enough times, and people will start lowering their expectations of you. Permanently. Remember, power isn't what's real. Power is what's perceived. You don't have to lie, but you do have to control the image. So what do you do instead? You adopt what Machiavelli mastered, strategic ambiguity. You don't say, I don't know. You say, I have something in mind. And then you say nothing else. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let their minds spiral. Because the more they guess, the more they fill in your gaps with power, not weakness. Never announce your plans. You've seen them. People in public, bragging about their next big move. They want attention. They want praise. Machiavelli would smile at them quietly. Then he'd make a mental note. They've just given me their map. When you reveal your plans, 2 things happen. People feel no urgency to help you. You're already successful, right? Your enemies now know how to sabotage you before you've even started. So what's the power move? You move in silence. You let success speak only when it's undeniable. You don't chase validation. You let the world discover what you've built when it's too late to stop you. Power, real power, is built in shadows. Never take sides in petty public conflicts. You think loyalty makes you look noble, but in public, that loyalty becomes a leash. Machiavelli warned his princes, do not involve yourself in disputes unless you stand to gain. Every public alliance comes with a cost. Every side you pick creates an enemy you didn't need. And worse, it reveals your values before you have the power to defend them. So you stay neutral, not because you're weak, but because you're smart. Let others fight. You observe. You remember. You position. This isn't cowardice. It's the long game. It's public patience in service of future dominance. Never hunger for attention. You walk into a room trying to be liked, you've already lost. The more you need people, the less they respect you. This is human nature. So stop trying to impress. Stop chasing laughter, validation, approval. Every time you seek it, you give away control. Instead, walk in silent, calm, composed. Let them notice the one who doesn't need to be noticed. Be the only person in the room who's not performing. That's how you pull gravity. Because contrast creates magnetism. Never break under pressure. You don't need to shout. You don't need to argue. But the second your voice tightens, or your eyes flinch, or your shoulders drop, the room knows. People pick up on stress instantly, even subconsciously. And in that moment, your myth breaks, your aura cracks. So you train for stillness. When pressure comes, you absorb it. You let it wash over you like arrows on armor. Still face, steady breath, unbothered silence. And the result? They adjust to your calm. They begin to orbit your emotional state. You become a psychological landmark, something immovable. Never over-explain. This is the sin of those who fear judgment. You say something bold, the crowd reacts. You panic, you backtrack, you justify, you apologize. Mistake. You've just handed them your power. Machiavelli never explained himself. He redirected. If questioned, he'd say, "Perhaps you misunderstood me," or "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, he controlled the meaning. So next time you feel the urge to explain, don't. Let your silence make them uncomfortable. Let your pause create doubt in them, not in you. Never show bitterness toward rejection. Someone doesn't invite you, doesn't acknowledge you, chooses someone else. You want to show that pain? Machiavelli would call that emotional suicide, because the second you show it, you admit it matters, and the moment you care, they win. So instead, respond with indifference, stillness, refined silence. Make it seem like their rejection freed you, as if your attention is a resource, and they just lost access. They'll expect you to chase. When you don't, they'll start chasing themselves. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful. Not because they don't deserve it, but because you don't benefit. Even if you're right, you look jealous. You look petty. And now they see you as a threat. Instead, study their weakness. Wait for the perfect time. And then, if necessary, strike through someone else. Not now, later, quietly. Power isn't just truth. It's timing. Public power doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being impeccable. From the discipline to not react, to not explain, to not need. You've now seen the 9 poisons, and what they destroy is your presence, your aura, your myth. But avoiding weakness is only half the game. The next level is installing power in its place. Not ego, not arrogance, but precise projection, strategic silence, posture that threatens without motion, presence that dominates without speech. You've subtracted the noise. Now, in part 1, you learned what not to do. The 9 behaviors that weaken your influence in public. The unconscious leaks of power. The subtle self-sabotage that reveals more about you than your words ever should. But what comes after restraint? After silence, there must be form. After subtraction, construction. And now it's time to build your presence. This is where Machiavellian philosophy becomes art. Not just avoidance of mistakes, but the crafting of perception. Because public power isn't about being real. It's about being remembered. Not for what you said, but for how you made them feel. Let's begin. Presence is designed, not discovered. Walk into a room, the way you carry yourself before you speak. That's where power begins. Your body becomes a signal, shoulders slightly back, chin level, eyes neither searching nor avoiding, stillness in movement, control in breath. You don't fidget, you command. People decide within seconds how important you are, and it's not based on your words. It's based on posture, gaze, silence. Machiavelli taught his princes to study generals before kings, because a general's strength is felt before it's declared. Be that general. Let your silence do the talking. Let your presence feel deliberate, not accidental. Speak last, speak less. When you speak too soon, you frame the room. When you speak last, you frame the room's response. Let others unload their ideas, emotions, confessions. You wait. You gather data. And when you finally speak, do it slowly. Do it clearly. As if every word has weight, because it does. You don't rush. You don't fill silences. Your restraint becomes tension, and tension becomes power. Be unreadable on purpose. Machiavelli warned rulers not to be loved or feared, but to control which mask they wear and when. In public, you must not be easy to define. Because once people understand you, they stop respecting you. Predictability invites manipulation. But when you're unreadable, calm in chaos, kind without attachment, warm but unreachable, they don't know how to play you. Let them wonder. Is he angry? Is he amused? Is he testing me? That confusion creates reverence. Mystery creates magnitude. You don't have to act strange. You just have to hold back more than you reveal. Project through action, not explanation. If you want to be seen as disciplined, don't tell them your routine. Just show up carved by it. If you want to be seen as powerful, don't talk about ambition. Let your moves announce it. People trust what they feel more than what they hear. So your action should radiate consistency, precision, purpose. When you walk into a room, your discipline should enter before you do. Let your reputation whisper, he's not loud. He's dangerous. Control attention through contrast. You don't compete for attention. You manufacture it. How? By creating contrast. If the room is loud, be silent. If everyone is fast, move slow. If the crowd is casual, appear composed, intentional, immovable. That contrast breaks the pattern. And when you break the pattern, people focus on you without knowing why. This is not charisma. This is design. It's not about being likable. It's about being memorable. Let others speak more than you. Why? Because the more they talk, the more you learn. Their motives, their insecurities, their emotional tells. You become the mirror. When people speak to someone who doesn't interrupt, doesn't rush to respond, doesn't try to one-up, they project their own meaning onto you. And then they start trusting you because they feel seen. They feel heard. Meanwhile, you've revealed nothing. Machiavelli understood this psychological loophole. He wrote, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. For all men have eyes, but few have the gift of discernment. Let them fill in the blanks with power. Say less, imply more." There's power in suggestion. You don't give the full answer. You point in a direction. Why? Because humans are wired to complete stories. If you say, "Let's just say I'm working on something interesting," their minds will imagine 5 different possibilities, all grander than the truth. That's influence. Let your words be sharp, few, and intentional. Don't explain. Don't defend. Don't decorate. Say less. Imply more. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Provoke without losing control. Every now and then, drop something subtle. A look, a phrase, a pause. Just enough to unbalance the room. Then, pull back. You never escalate. You never defend. You let them feel the shift in energy without knowing exactly what changed. That's how you test influence. Can you shift the dynamic with minimal motion? Can you hold the frame without raising your voice? If so, you're not participating in the scene. You're directing it. Become the question, not the answer. You don't walk into a room as a solution. You walk in as a riddle, not to confuse, but to command curiosity. They shouldn't know exactly what you do, or what you believe, or how far you're willing to go. They should leave the interaction thinking, there's more to him. And the moment they feel that, they begin respecting boundaries they don't even understand. That's how legends are born. Not through explanation, but through deliberate incompleteness. Public power isn't about dominance. It's about precision. It's about control. And more than anything, it's about restraint. Because when you stop chasing attention, you begin magnetizing it. When you stop reacting, you begin shaping reaction. When you stop being readable, you start becoming respected. And when your silence becomes louder than their noise, you're no longer just present in the room. You become the room's center of gravity. By now, you understand what to avoid in public. You know how to craft presence, to command the room with silence and subtlety. But true Machiavellian power lies not just in what you do, but in what you don't do. And that means mastering the art of absence. Absence is not weakness. It is a strategic move. In a world obsessed with visibility, where everyone chases likes, attention, approval, absence is the ultimate power play. Why? Because humans fear what they don't understand. They fear what disappears. When you remove yourself at the right moment, when you pull back with purpose, you create a vacuum, and the world rushes to fill it. Be just slightly less available than expected. Showing up everywhere, all the time, makes you ordinary, predictable, replaceable. But when you're slightly elusive, people start to notice. They ask questions. Where did he go? Why wasn't he at that meeting? Why didn't he respond immediately? Your absence becomes an invitation to imagine your value. Don't be the person always there. Be the person whose presence is earned. Leave events early, enter late. Machiavelli advised his princes to always leave before the moment loses its energy. If you stay too long, you fade into the background. You become part of the noise. Leave when the conversation is still engaged. Leave when curiosity about you is at its peak. And when you arrive after the crowd has settled. Don't rush in with noise or grand gestures. Appear as a calm force entering the storm. Create curiosity through limited reveal. People respect what they don't fully understand. When you reveal everything, you remove the mystery. You remove the intrigue. Keep your intentions hidden. Keep your plans vague. Share just enough to imply power, never enough to fully expose it. Remember, a man who reveals his hand before the game is played is a man who loses before he starts. Withdraw energy to gain control. When someone disrespects you, when they interrupt, cut you off, or undermine, don't respond with confrontation. Instead, withdraw your energy. Stop giving them attention. Turn away. Redirect your focus. This sudden absence destabilizes the aggressor. They realize, he doesn't need me. He's not controlled by me. And when you remove yourself, you gain control over the dynamic. Make your disappearance speak louder than your presence. The way you leave is as important as how you arrive. Exit with purpose. Don't flee in panic or frustration. Disappear with cold, refined detachment. No anger, no explanation. This kind of exit sends a message louder than words. I'm above this. I'm not dependent on your approval. People will talk about your departure long after you're gone. They will wonder why you left, what you know that they don't. And that mystery builds your legend. The power of silent withdrawal, Never beg for inclusion. Never chase after those who exclude you. Instead, vanish quietly. Let your absence create discomfort in those who thought they controlled you. When you don't react, you force others to show their true colors. They panic, they overreach, they lose composure. You, meanwhile, maintain your calm. This patience is a weapon. When absence meets timing, influence multiplies. Timing is the secret ingredient to strategic absence. Disappear too soon, and you look weak. Disappear too late, and you look desperate. Learn the rhythm of the room, sense the energy, then withdraw just before the moment peaks. This is how you keep control. This is how you own the room, even when you're not there. Make others defend your reputation. When rumors or attacks arise, don't defend yourself publicly. Instead, let your allies speak for you. Why? Because when you defend yourself, you validate the attack. But when others defend you, especially unexpected defenders, it strengthens your reputation more than any public argument. Be the one whose silence makes others become your shield. Be the unseen force that moves the game. Remember, true power is often invisible. It's the force behind the scenes, the quiet gravity that pulls everything toward it. Your strategic absence is that force. Not every battle requires your presence. Sometimes the smartest move is to disappear and let the world wonder what he's planning next. Absence is not surrender. Absence is a tool, a weapon of patience and control. Use it wisely. Use it deliberately. Master the power of strategic withdrawal, and you multiply your influence in ways loudness never can. If absence is a strategic withdrawal, then silence is its sharpest blade. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it is a powerful, active tool, a language all its own. Silence speaks louder than words. In every public interaction, there is an invisible conversation going on beneath the surface of what is said. When you master silence, you control what is unsaid, and that often carries far more weight than what is spoken aloud. Machiavelli knew this. The powerful don't fill the room with words. They fill it with meaning through silence. The silence that protects vests, the silence that traps. There are two types of silence. The first is protective silence. It shields you from giving away too much. It keeps your vulnerabilities hidden. It preserves your mystique. The second is provocative silence, a trap set for the unwary. When you remain silent at the right moment, you invite others to reveal themselves. You force them to fill the void. They panic, they over-explain. They stumble over their own words, and while they unravel, you stay calm, collected, the silent anchor in the storm. Pauses are invisible punctuation. Silence is not empty space. It is punctuation. Strategic pauses create tension, curiosity, and anticipation. When someone asks a question, don't rush to answer. Pause, just long enough to make them wonder if you even heard them. When you speak, let your words hang in the air before continuing. Let people fill in the gaps. This silence forces others to lean in. They start projecting intelligence, depth, and power onto you, simply because you choose when and how to speak. The dangerous power of ambiguity. Machiavellian silence thrives on ambiguity. Ambiguity confuses, unsettles, and disarms. Instead of clarifying your intentions, let your answers be vague but confident. If someone presses for details, redirect the question. Ask them why it matters. Ask what they think. Make them reveal more about themselves, while you remain an unreadable force. Never explain. Make others question themselves. One of the deadliest mistakes in public is over-explaining. When you justify your actions, you give control to others. You allow them to frame your narrative. Machiavelli warned against this. Instead of explaining, redirect. Turn the focus back on the questioner. Make them doubt their own assumptions. Respond with phrases like, "Perhaps you misunderstood me," or "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, you remain in control of the story. Use micro-expressions and subtle signals. Silence is not just verbal. Your body language speaks volumes in silence. A lingering glance, a slight smirk when someone overreaches, a slow, deliberate sip of your drink as others rant. These micro-movements communicate, "I am unshaken. I am ahead of this game." They create discomfort and curiosity without a single word spoken. Control eye contact like a weapon. Your gaze is a silent message of power. Hold your gaze calmly, steadily. Don't flinch or over-focus. When someone tries to bait you, stare them down with cold detachment. If someone beneath you tries to provoke, ignore their presence altogether. This silence of the eyes turns challengers into shadows. Others watch. They understand the hierarchy without words. Make silence your test. Silence is a trap for the unprepared. When you refuse to react, others reveal their true nature. They panic, stumble, overreach. You become the psychological anchor, the one everyone orients around. Drop timed sentences that echo long after. When you do speak, make it count. A single, well-timed sentence can linger in minds for days. It's not about volume or length. It's about precision. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Use silence to shape appearance, then drop words that echo." Phrases like, "You'll understand later." That's a story for another time. Leave people hanging. Let their imagination build your legend. Be a living riddle. Walk into a room as a contradiction. Warm eyes, cold voice, silent posture, deadly presence. Engage in one moment. Withdraw the next. Always polite, never predictable. Confuse the mind so it must pay attention, because what cannot be labeled cannot be dismissed. Silence builds your legend. Legends don't shout. They echo. They make others speak for them. They create myths, not by what they say, but by what they choose not to say. Master silence. And you master the invisible conversation. You no longer need to fight for attention. You command the room by what you withhold. You become the presence no one forgets. So far, you have learned how to control presence through silence, absence, and strategic ambiguity. Now let's move to another crucial facet of public power: strategic praise and invisible alliances. Power is not only what you take, it's who you align with. Machiavelli understood that power is relational. It's not enough to stand alone. You must have allies who protect your image, cover your back, and amplify your influence. But these alliances are not forged in the spotlight. They are quiet, invisible, and calculated. Strategic praise, the unspoken weapon. Public praise is often dismissed as flattery or weakness, but done right, it's one of the most powerful moves in the Machiavellian playbook. Why? Because praising someone powerful publicly sends a signal. It says, "I recognize your strength, I respect your position." But more importantly, it creates a subtle bond, a silent pact. The power of being a ghost ally. You don't need to be loud about your alliances. The most effective protectors are those who remain ghost allies, visible just enough to be noticed, but silent enough to remain untouchable. When you publicly praise someone powerful with sharp precision, a simple comment about their insight, leadership, or strength, you become a part of their inner circle without showing submission. Why praise? Praising someone strategically shields you from their suspicion, gains you informal protection, builds goodwill that can be called on later. Machiavelli said, "The powerful remember who supports their image." If you protect their reputation, even quietly, you become indispensable. How to praise with impact. Don't flatter blindly. Praise must be genuine but concise, targeted, focused on their true strengths, timed perfectly, not too often, not too rarely. Example: when a leader makes a sharp point, a calm, well-placed compliment like, "Your insight there was sharper than anyone else's," can do more than 100 words of praise. Invisible alliances, power behind the curtain. Your strongest alliances are often the ones nobody knows about. Machiavelli advised rulers to form bonds behind closed doors, far from the public eye. Why? Because public alliances can backfire. They can make you predictable, force you into battles you don't want, or expose you to betrayal. Instead, nurture loyalty privately. Support others quietly. Be the one who defends when no one is watching. How to build and maintain invisible alliances. Offer help discreetly. Communicate through trusted intermediaries. Celebrate successes privately. Avoid public displays of favoritism. Invisible alliances build trust on a deeper level. They are based on mutual benefit and discretion, the currency of true power. Never reveal who you are watching. In public, always act casual, relaxed, almost indifferent. But behind the scenes, you are always observing, collecting data, and mapping the landscape. Who is vying for power? Who is insecure? Who is pretending? Knowing this allows you to navigate social waters with surgical precision. Observe without being observed. Your power grows as you gather intelligence silently. Like a shadow, you scan the room without revealing your attention. This invisibility makes you unstoppable. You understand weaknesses before anyone else, and use this knowledge when the moment is right. Respond to disrespect with calculated absence. When someone undermines or disrespects you in public, don't retaliate impulsively. Instead, withdraw. Pull your energy away from the offense. This sudden cold detachment unsettles your adversary more than a confrontation ever could. They lose control. They perform worse. You remain poised. Drop timed phrases that stick. When you speak, your words should resonate long after you leave. A short, well-placed sentence is more powerful than a long speech. Phrases like, "You'll see soon enough," "That's for another time," "We'll let the results speak." These create curiosity and follow-through. They become mantras repeated in whispers, building your legend. Power is not just what you do. It's what you make others do. By mastering praise and invisible alliances, you orchestrate the social chessboard. You don't need to be loud to move the pieces. Your influence spreads quietly, deeply, and effectively. Praise strategically. Build alliances invisibly. Be the silent force that shapes outcomes. Because in the game of power, those who control perception control reality. Welcome to the final part of this masterclass. You have learned restraint, silence, strategic praise, and invisible alliances. Now it's time to build your unbreakable legend. In public, you are not just a person. You are a legend in the making. Machiavelli taught that your public image is not just a reflection of who you are, but a carefully crafted narrative that influences how the world reacts to you. Your legend is built less by what you say and more by what you allow others to assume. Perception is reality. Shape it before others do. In public, people don't judge you by truth or facts. They judge you by perception, the stories they tell themselves about you. Your goal: control the narrative. Bend perception. Do not rush to clarify or explain. Allow your silence to create gaps that others will fill with admiration, fear, respect. Enter late, leave early, be elusive, be slightly less accessible than expected. Arrive after others, making your presence felt when attention is already heightened. Leave before the moment fades, when interest is still rising, not after it has peaked. This timing keeps you mysterious and desirable. Let your absence speak volumes. Some of the most powerful moments happen when you're not even there. Craft your image so carefully, people talk about you even when you're gone. Your absence becomes a force, fueling curiosity, speculation, and reverence. Build a myth that echoes. Legends don't shout, they echo, make people question, wonder, speculate. Let your actions be few but impactful. When your name arises, allow a slight pause, a moment of hesitation, respect, or awe. This is the power of a myth. Let others defend you. Never defend yourself. When rumors or accusations arise, never rush to your own defense. Respond calmly with something like, "They are entitled to their opinion." Then watch as others step up to defend your reputation. This shows confidence and detachment. You are above petty disputes. Control the emotional temperature of the room. Powerful people don't just influence opinions, they control how people feel. By mastering your presence, your tone, your reactions, you dictate the emotional flow. Others unconsciously adjust around your energy. You become the gravitational center. Master the exit. Leave them wanting more. The last moment of your public interaction is crucial. Leave while interest peaks. Walk away mid-conversation with a plausible excuse. "I must handle something. We'll continue this later." You leave with power in your hands, becoming the subject of speculation. Power is a living atmosphere. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics. He taught how to create an atmosphere of power, an aura that disturbs certainty, ignites imagination, and leaves a presence no one forgets. Restraint is half the art, precision is the other. Self-control gets you in the room. Precision moves you to the throne. Every silence, every word, every glance must be deliberate, calculated, purposeful. You are no longer just a man in public. You are a force, a legend, a presence that shapes reality by simply existing. Master this art, and you control not only what is said, but what is felt, imagined, and remembered.